Welcome back. Welcome to another practice with Inner Moon Yoga. Today's practice is a yin practice to help with any sciatic nerve pain. It'll also be great for anyone that has lower back issues, glute issues, hip issues. Or if you know that you have sort of an inflamed piriformis muscle, because that often is a trigger for your sciatic nerve. This will help you. So as we move through, I just really encourage you to move through with compassion and with a mindset of being more on the gentler side than to push too much, especially if you are in the midst of struggling with sciatic nerve pain. Often the most common reason for sciatic nerve pain is a bulging disc. So it's your lower spine. So your sciatic nerve moves through your last two vertebrae. So it would be a bulging disc there, or if you have inflammation in the lower spine. Those are the most common reasons. So just moving through with compassion would be my biggest encouragement to you. So today's practice, you'll want either a yoga mat or a blanket for cushionness to be gentler on the knees. Also, having two blocks is super handy. If you don't have the blocks, you can use cushions, blankets, anything of that nature. Okay, so if you want to go grab those things, pause the video, and then we'll come back and we'll get started then. So we're going to begin in a nice child's pose, and if you're comfortable coming right into child's pose, you can go ahead and find your variation. If you have any knee issues, you're going to want to use those cushions or the blocks. Place them underneath your seat to take that pressure off the knees, and then come down onto those elbows, okay? So that'll help take the pressure off as well, opposed to coming flat down and bringing all that weight forward into the knees. If you don't need the support in child's pose, you can find your variation. I like to do a closed knee, so my knees are together. This way I'm getting a little bit deeper into the lower spine. But if that is not available to you and you want to open up the knees, that's no problem as well, okay? So coming down, you can always bring that forehead or a cheek right onto your mat, or if it doesn't seem to go all that way, use that support, whether it's a block or a cushion or a pillow, to place your forehead on. So in whatever variation that is working for you right now today, you're just going to settle into that version. So coming down and relaxing. And you can close the eyes and really just take this child's pose as our open meditation. So just letting go of anything that you've already accomplished today or that you're working on today, and just giving yourself permission to pause here. Pause for the next 35 minutes just to be on your yoga mat, to be here to support your health, your physical self, your mental self. And we're going to move through this practice. We'll hold for anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes for each pose. And these are just guidelines. As we move through, if it becomes too much, that time frame, you can always ease off on the pose, find a gentler version, or even release the pose altogether and just lie on your back or your belly and just rebound sooner than we do. And that is just fine. That is really listening to your true teacher, which is inside you. So just listening to yourself and what you need in the moment. Also, if any time you feel like you're in this sweet pocket and you're not holding long enough, you can always pause the video and hold the pose 4, 5, 6 minutes if you have that time, because that can be just as sweet. So really just doing what works for you today, taking what you need from this practice. But I encourage you as we move through, really just staying with that letting go mindset, staying in the moment, using that breath as a tool, as an anchor to keep your attention within you, within the moment, not worrying about what you need to do next. And it's a hard thing to do. We're always planning and trying to be proactive and more efficient.
But the importance of pausing is something that we're not taught. We're not learned the importance of rest, of relaxation, of letting go. This is when our body truly becomes strong. Our body only strengthens in a state of rest. We can build muscle, we can tear it down during a vigorous workout, but it only heals itself, it only gets stronger during that state of rest. Our organs, our energy, our mind only gets stronger in a state of rest. We need to pause. We need to allow that space for the cells and the molecules of our body to do the work of rebuilding, of detoxification, of lubrication. All these things only happen when our body doesn't feel like it's in a state of emergency. If we're in a state of emergency, it's just in that repair and defending mode. It's only when we settle and let go and we rest does it have time to repair itself, to regrow, to strengthen. So just staying with that mindset and just keeping those thoughts in the back of your head as we move through, and just taking that moment when you notice yourself drifting off and thinking about other things. Just encourage that mind to come back to the breath and back to the moment, and really sort of settle in and enjoy the sensations of knowing that the true work, the true healing only happens when we let go and just be. We'll just take 3 more rounds of breath in your version of child's pose. Again, if you needed or have come out of it early, not to sweat it, just enjoy that rebound for one final round of breath. And then just gently easing your way out of that child's pose, coming up. If you have any blocks or cushions underneath you, just moving them out of the way, and just make any counter movement that feels right. I like to extend one leg at a time out of child's pose and just do a nice little stretch there for the backs of the legs. Then we're going to come into what's called shoelace pose. I'm going to come sideways on my mat here. I'm going to bring my right knee forward from tabletop, and I'm going to cross my left knee behind it. I'm going to open up my feet so I make space for my seat to come back and sit behind. And then I'm going to come back with my seat. If this is not available to you, if that felt extremely vulnerable trying to do that, maybe it's the bottom leg. Maybe half shoelace works best for you, where you extend the bottom leg and you keep the top leg crossed. If that's still not accessible to you, an easy cross-legged pose will do the work as well for the hips, okay? So 3 options there to find your version. Now also, another thing, you can always use a prop for the shoelace, so you can always sit back on something, and that may give you the availability to find this pose, okay? So whether you're sitting up on a blanket or a block or a cushion. So from here, we're just gonna find a nice elongation through the core before we fold forward. So just elongating, opening up the heart, and then as you come down, I'm keeping the intention of keeping the weight back in the hips opposed to bringing it forward into the knees. So I'm scooting my hips back as I come down forward into a nice forward fold. You can always use a prop, maybe to put your forehead on if that feels nice, to support the head and the neck. Whatever works right for you, but really trying to be mindful that weight's back in the hips. And then also another thing that happens as completely human nature is that we sort of grip, and we're protecting primarily the knee joint here. So we sort of clench on maybe in our glutes or our quads to protect that. But just doing your best to soften and let go of any muscle tension, and just allow the stretch to go deeper than the muscle. Allow it to go into the hip socket, into the tendons, the ligaments that make up the joint, as well as triggering into our, what is called our connective tissue, into our fascia, And those tissues are like a webbing underneath our skin. If you could think about the white part of an orange after you take off the peel, that's what our fascia is. It's sort of like this protective webbing all around our organs, all around our muscle, our bones, and it sort of holds us together. But it gets dried out, it gets tight. And so by finding these nice yin poses, we're bringing some stimulation to the fascia to help lubricate, to gently stretch out and find better alignment, better support. So just letting go as much as you can. You want to be sort of in that 75-80% range where you can still have this gentle, smooth breath. It's not jagged. You're not holding your breath. You're just in this sweet pocket that, yes, it can be discomfort. Yes, it can feel intense, but there's no pain. There's no damage being done. So we'll just hang out here for about 3 more rounds of breath. Maybe you found some opening and the forward fold has gone deeper. Or maybe it's become too much and you had to release the pose, and that's okay. The important thing is that you're listening to your inner self, your teacher. And my job is just to guide you to that point where you're reminded to listen to your intuition, to your wisdom, and do what's right for you. And we're just going to slowly, gently bring ourselves back up here, taking your time. And for me, I like to move forward to release, but you may need to just release from a seated position as well, okay? Those legs, those hips are going to feel vulnerable. I'm going to move long on my mat so I can come into a gentle down dog here just to counter that, to release that pose, to rebound from it. Then we're going to come into pigeon pose, still on that same side. So we're going to work down the right side first, and then we'll work down the left. So I'm going to bring that right knee to the inside of that right wrist. My left leg stays long behind me, coming into pigeon as you may know it, or swan in Yin Yoga. Now that front shin, that right shin, can be at any degree that works for you. Some people keep that shin parallel to the top of the mat in a deep form of pigeon pose. Other people have it at a 45-degree angle, and others have that right heel right under their seat, and they find that a better version. Okay, so knowing there's no right or wrong, listening to your body and finding that 75-80% intensity where it's completely manageable. It could be, intense, it can be discomfort, but there's absolutely no pain. So just staying up here in this proud swan just for another 3 rounds of breath. By staying up before we fold down, it just gives our body, our physical body, especially that right hip, it just gives it time to accept this deep, intense stretch. It allows us to open up a little bit more, allows the body to relax and let go more, less gripping and grinding. So when you're ready, you can slowly forward. Same with that intention of keeping the weight back in the hips, in that right hip. So as I come forward in that forward fold, I'm trying not to bring that weight into that front right knee. I'm trying to keep it back in that right hip, and sometimes I just sort of scoot that weight back, scoot myself back. And coming down to where it works for you. It may be just to the palms of the hand, and that's okay. It may be to the elbows, or maybe you have lots of opening and you can bring your whole self down right onto your mat. But here you want to be where you can relax as much as possible as well, okay? So you're not holding onto muscle tension, you're not gripping. The more you grip and hold on, the more the body will hold on. So you won't find that nice opening. So you want to be in a variation where you can let go, where you can breathe, where you can
allow yourself to melt down and just let go. And that's not to say that this won't feel intense, because this, for most of us, is a very deep stretch, right? We're right into that right hip socket. Also getting probably a nice stretch to the front of the left quad as well, the thigh muscle there, into our glutes, our piriformis muscle that's across the back of our glutes. So just knowing that there can be discomfort, there can be intensity, but just being okay with that. Move into that discomfort. Teaching ourselves that discomfort is okay. Pain, not okay, but discomfort, yes, that's okay. We live in a very comfortable world, so we're used to a nice comfortable couch, comfortable car, comfortable bed. So it's hard for us sometimes to feel discomfort. We try to come out of it right away, but if you can just be with that and allow whatever to rise up and let go and just empty out anything that's not serving you anymore, the stronger you will be for it. We'll just take 3 more rounds of breath here on this side, just doing your best to utilize that inhale. You can feel that region in that right hip. And as you exhale, let go and visualize letting go of tension in that region. Then when you're ready, just gently bring yourself back up. You're going to feel quite vulnerable. You're going to feel older than you are, and that's okay. You're going to curl those left back toes and just drag that right leg back and just gently walk it out in a nice down dog. Just releasing, rebounding, allowing that energy to move through more freely, allowing those kinks to unkink through the right side. And we're going to come into a nice dragon pose. So I'm going to bring that right knee down onto my mat, or sorry, my left knee down onto my mat. I'm going to step that right foot forward. So still working this right side here. Then I'm just going to scoot that left knee back a bit. So I'm more floating above the left knee than I am sitting right on my left knee into a dragon pose. Then I'm going to bring both hands to the inside of that right foot. I'm going to walk that right foot to the edge of my mat. Coming for flying dragon here. I'm going to rock a little bit on that right foot, just like a flapping wing of a bird as I flap that right knee out. And just finding a little bit of opening here. And then I'm just going to, I like to hang on the outside of that right foot, but that might not work for you. You might want to keep the sole of the foot down, and that's okay. Then just working your way to where it works for you. So maybe you're still up in the palms and that's deep enough for you. That's okay. Maybe coming down onto that left elbow, maybe coming down onto both elbows. Just coming into that 75-80% range and whatever that looks like for you. And again, these are intense. When we get into our hips, it's intense. It's intense. We keep a lot of tension in those hips. We keep a lot of emotion in those hips. We've talked about this before, that our hips are our largest junk drawer. That's where we keep all those nasty emotions of disappointment, of embarrassment, of anger. So it can feel a little bit like that when we deeply stretch that region. We can be a little bit irritated. We could be frustrated. We just want to come out of this pose immediately. But just, I encourage you to stay with it where it feels okay. It doesn't have any pain, where you can just be with that discomfort and just do your best to let go of any unneeded emotion, any unneeded tension. And we're just here for maybe another 5 rounds of breath. Just letting go as much as you can. Again, if any time it does become too much, just back off to a gentler version or release the pose. Or if you feel like you want to stay longer, pause the video. Okay, stay longer. Stay for 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So from here, we're going to gently release. So we're going to come back onto those palms. We're going to make some space so we can bring that right foot back and find that down dog again, just to release
Whew. Nice exhale always feels good after that. So nice inhale through the nose and a big sigh exhale through the mouth. Do that one more time. Then we're going to come into a nice butterfly in between sides here. So bring your seat back down to your mat. Butterfly is the meeting of the soles. So we're going to bring the soles of the feet together. And you can bring your feet as close to your groin that feels comfortable for you. You can always find some support if those knees feel like they need something underneath them. You can always shove something underneath them, okay? Another little bonus that we're going to do here for butterfly is I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to zipper my toes. So I'm going to put the baby finger between my baby toe and the next toe, and then I'm just going to continue. So then the ring finger goes next, then my middle finger, then my index finger goes between my big toe and the second toe, and my thumbs just go on top, okay? Now this may feel really funky if you've never done this before. If you haven't been to one of my classes when we've zippered our toes, it may be very difficult for you the first time. So just do your best to play with it. It's something that is so simple but can be so difficult, right? We shove our feet into beautiful shoes all the time and squish our toes, and then we end up with hip issues later in life because we don't have that natural space between our toes that help with our balance. So the more you can find space and allow your toes to be natural, the better. Then we'll just take a nice inhale, open up that heart, and just allow yourself to fold forward to whatever degree works for you. If folding forward is not always your friend, you can always sit up on a block and do this pose, or a blanket, and it'll give you a little bit of space. It'll rotate your pelvis and just give you that little extra space for the hips. So we all have different bone makeup, and we will not look the same in any of these poses. We're not supposed to look the same. We are all made differently, especially on the outside. On the inside, we all have the same little piece, right? We all have a soul or a true self that is all equal, but on the outside, we are very different. So we just accept that. We just be with that. And just allow it to be. No need to fight it. No need to think that we're supposed to look a certain way. The more that we can accept this, the easier life will be. Just like all things, right? The more you can accept whatever's happening around you, the easier it is to move through it. The more you resist or fight something, the harder it is, the more suffering you'll bring to the situation. So just allowing this pose to happen, allowing this nice stretch for the groin, for the pelvis, for the inner legs, with the bonus of this space finder for our toes, the zippering. And we'll just hang out here for about another 5 rounds of breath or so. Just enjoying the pause. The real juice, the real magic in Yin Yoga is the time. So often the longer you can hold and stay in a pose, the more benefit it will have for you. It takes at least about 90 seconds of holding a stretch or a yin style pose to get deep down into those soft tissues that we're trying to target. So we're trying to target the ligaments, the joints, the tendons, the fascia, the connective tissue. In this particular practice, supporting that sciatic nerve by making more space. So whether you're someone that does have a slip disc, a bulge disc, inflammation in the lower spine causing it, maybe you're someone that your sciatic nerve moves right through your piriformis muscle. So some people have it in front of their piriformis muscle, some people have it through it, some people have it behind. So it can cause different sensations and different pain. But sciatic pain is like no other. It goes right down the legs, so it can be from bottom 2 vertebrae all the way down to your big toe, where the pain shoots out. And now we'll just slowly bring ourselves back up. Keep the fingers zippered if you still have them zippered as you bring yourself back up. And then just slowly release those fingers and just notice that energy, that sensation that's happening between the toes. And then gently bring those legs together. And we'll just set up for that same series on the other side. So coming forward, I'm going to bring that left knee in front. I'm going to cross that right knee behind, open up my feet, make room for my seat to fall behind. Again, you can always sit up on something. You can always use a block for support between the legs. You can always release that bottom leg if that feels good. Or if all else fails, you come into cross leg and then still get a nice stretch for the hips, okay? So whichever version you're in, you're going to take a nice inhale and elongate through your core. And as you exhale, you're going to keep that weight back in the hips, scoot back and bring yourself down. Maybe find some support for your head. And just enjoy this amazing stretch, not only for the left hip here, but deep into the glutes, into that piriformis muscle. Also with this forward fold, we're getting some nice stretch for the lower spine. And just allow yourself to close the eyes and just let go. So I like to soften my feet. I like to remind myself not to hold on to any muscle tension. Also, you may find sometimes that you are clenching your jaw, and that is completely normal. Your hips are directly connected to your jaw. So if you think about the emotions that we hold in our hips, that's our anger, our frustration, our embarrassments, right? And all those emotions, what do? They cause us to clench our jaw when we're angry. So that's just a natural thing that happens as those emotions, those unneeded emotions arise and come up. We often clench the jaw. So just be mindful of that. Just soften the face. Maybe make a little space between the upper and the lower teeth. And just let go. Let go of whatever no longer serves you. Make space in that junk drawer. Life is always going to throw stuff at us. So the more that we can take time on a regular basis to make space, so to make space for emotion, to make physical space, to soften our bodies, the easier we can move through those challenges and the space we have to take on new emotion, new situations, new challenges. Again, we'll take about 3 more rounds of breath here. Just letting go as much as you can, softening throughout the body, softening the arms and the hands. And then when you're ready, just gently bring yourself back up. Again, releasing in any way that works well, whether it's uncrossing the legs or rolling forward or rolling back, okay? Just listening to your intentions. And then coming into a nice down dog just to rebound, to counter that. I just like to pedal it out. Just find a little bit of release. And at the same time, it's a great setup for our next pose, pigeon pose. So I'm going to bring that left knee to the inside of the left wrist this time, okay? Finding the degree of that shin that works for you. Some people like it sort of squared off like that. That is way too intense for my body. I like it at a 45-degree angle. I extend that right leg long, but you may even have that left foot underneath that left cheek, okay? So wherever you're at, you're just going to bring yourself to a nice proud swan to begin with, okay? You maybe like support, so you can always place a block or a pillow underneath that left hip to give you a little support. So staying up in this nice proud swan, and maybe you stay up. Maybe folding forward is not good
doesn't feel right or it's too intense for you. So you could always stay up here as well. But I do like to stay up here in the beginning and just allow my body to accept this deep stretch. It gives me a little bit more space as I come down, I find. So when we do come down with that intention of moving that weight back into the hips, not into that front left knee. As you come down to where you need to be, whether it's the palms, the elbows, maybe it's elbows on a block or a pillow. Maybe you can come all the way down. Maybe you place your forehead on a block. Just owning your version of your swan pose, pigeon pose. And then once you come down to where it works for you, then bring the intention of letting go and softening. So letting go of any gripping, any holding, relaxing both feet and toes, and just allowing the pose to do the work. Being okay with the sensations, doing your best not to fidget or get irritated. Just allow whatever that comes up, allow it just to come up. That way you can wash it away. Just leave it on your mat or your blanket today, making space in that junk drawer. So really utilizing your breath here too. So as you inhale, bring that inhale into the region that you're feeling it. So if it's the outer left hip, or maybe it's into the glutes a little bit more, fill that region with that inhale. And then as you exhale, visualize that tension leaving that area. Let it go. We build up tension like sheets of paper. So it's like one sheet at a time. We layer up in an area in our body. So just trying to remove some of those sheets of paper, making space, increasing mobility and flexibility by doing so. We'll just take 3 more rounds of breath here. And then in your time, just slowly bring yourself back up. And we're going to rebound in that down dog again. So curling those right toes this time, making space to drag that left foot back. Any moans or groans are encouraged. And just pedal it out a little bit. Bringing some fresh blood back in. Some realignment. Then we'll find that dragon pose. So bring that right knee down on your mat first so that you can step that left foot forward. We're going to find dragon pose here. Then I'm just going to curl those right toes and just bring that right leg back a little bit more so I can float more on the above the knee than on the knee. Then I'm going to bring both hands to the inside of that left foot. I'm going to walk that left toe out to the side, toes point out, and then I'm just going to flap that knee out like a wing, making a little bit more space there. And then I like to hold on the outer edge of the foot, but that's not necessary. You can stay on the sole of the foot, no problem. And then just coming down to your degree. So it may still be up here. It may even be with blocks, okay? So if you're super tight, you may still just be up here with blocks, okay? You just want to be in that sort of 75% range. So you need to find your version of that and never worry about what it looks like, right? We're all going to look so different in that version, and all for different reasons, right? So whether you're tight, whether you're dealing with an injury, whether your bone makeup is just different. So accept your version of the pose and don't hang on to anybody else's version. The best line of life is that comparison is the thief of joy. So don't compare yourself to what I look like right now or to what you've seen in magazines or when you're in class with other students. Own your version of the pose and settle into that version and get the best and most out of it. So here it's definitely intense. There's definitely discomfort. There's definitely a feeling of being agitated.
that I just want to come out of the pose. These are all normal emotions that are coming up. I just use my breath to stay with it. I use the mindset of letting go. I use that exhale as my strength, as my anchor. We'll just take 3 more rounds of breath here, just doing your best to get what you need out of this stretch. And then when you're ready, just slowly bring yourself back up, making space to bring yourself back to that down dog position, curling those toes, just pedal it out. And then just bring yourself back down to your mat here. We're gonna find a nice little twist here to finish off. A little bit gentler than those intense stretches that we've just walked through here. So just lying down on your mat, we'll come into twisting roots here. So I'm gonna cross my right knee over my left to begin with. Then I'm going to lift up my seat and just scoot it over to the right a little bit. Now, you can stay with this one cross, the one knee cross, or if you're comfortable, you can always tuck that right foot behind the left calf as well. Then I'm going to bring those knees towards my chest and then just allow them to fall over to the left side. So in either version, whether you're in the one knee cross or the double cross, okay? There's no better or worse. Also, if that knee cross just doesn't even work for you, just stack your knees, okay? Also, you can use any support underneath the legs. Then you can open up the arms like an airplane wings, palms to the sky, and the pose of surrender. You can also bring your gaze and look away from the bent knees just to deepen that stretch. You can also drag that right hand still on the floor, but to a 45-degree angle, so closer to the face. And that will get you a nice stretch for the front right side of your chest and armpit. Maybe it feels good to hold on to your knees as well with the left hand. So just finding your variation that works great. We're just trying to get a nice little twist for the lower spine here. Twisting your spine, or moving your spine, I should say, in all directions is key, especially the lower spine. So as we move through on a daily basis, it's really important to take time to move your spine forward and back, side to side, and twist and twist. So even if it's just like a quick stretch, you're in the car waiting, or whatever you're doing, you're at your desk, take 5 minutes a couple times a day and just find these quick, gentle stretches just to support your overall health, so that, you know, we don't move through life and we do all these activities for 20, 30, 40 years. All of a sudden we start feeling stuff in our late 40s and 50s and we think, oh my gosh, I'm getting old. Well, no, part of it, yes, you know, as we age, we lose moisture and our bone does thin, but during those times we can strengthen and stimulate those areas as well. So it's more like we abused it and didn't take care of it during those times. So all of a sudden we start feeling all this pain. So the sooner you in your life that you can start supporting and working the soft tissues of the body, the less issues, the less injuries you're going to have as you move through later in life. So from here, we'll just slowly release that side. So just slowly bring those knees back to center, uncrossing or untwisting if you're twisted. And just recenter yourself on your mat, and we'll just set up for the other side. So crossing that left knee over the right. Maybe you're staying with the one cross. Maybe you're double crossing. Then you're just going to lift up your seat, scoot it over to the left side, hug those knees in for a moment, and then allow them to fall over to the right. making any adjustment as you get there. So maybe the cross isn't working on this side, maybe just a stack is better, maybe support under the knees feels nice. Open up those arms, palms to the sky. Maybe bring that left arm to that 45-degree angle. Maybe that gaze turns away from the bent knees. And maybe you hold on to that left leg. Maybe that feels nice. And here, just really enjoying this nice twist. There shouldn't be any pain. There should never be pain in any Yin Yoga or any yoga in general. Certainly discomfort exists in all that. Change, growth, those things can only happen by walking through a challenge or discomfort. So just allow yourself to be okay with that. Just enjoy the sweet parts as well. Like this gentle twist. Let's take 3 more rounds of breath here. And then when you're ready in your own time, at your own pace, just slowly bring yourself back to the center of your mat, uncrossing those legs, and just allowing yourself to set up for our final pose of Savasana corpse pose. Now, if you do have issues with your lower spine or your sciatic nerve right now, lying on your back with your legs extended is probably not your friend. So 2 options. You can always find support under the backs of the knees to take the pressure off the lower spine, or you could keep the soles of the feet on your mat, knees bent, just knock your knees together. If that still isn't great for you, you can come onto your side in the fetal position and find your final resting pose there. Otherwise, once you've found that sweet spot that works for you with the support that you need, you can close the eyes and just enjoy this last sort of minute and a half, the ultimate pose, corpse pose or pentacle pose. But really what it is, it's just the ultimate rebound, the ultimate just being, where your body can find that realignment now that we've stretched, we've pulled, we've twisted, and now all those cells, all those tissues can realign, can find a much better position, a stronger position, a more supported position. So by taking this time, it allows your body to do that. It allows it to repair and strengthen and realign. So just allow yourself to let go, allow the eyelids to be heavy, allow yourself to soften. You can always make a little movement if it feels right. You can roll the head a little bit from side to side, just encouraging yourself to let go and sink in. I'll just hang out here for about just under a minute or so, but if you want to stay longer, you can pause the video and just hang out in your Savasana as long as you'd like. Otherwise, just falling into that sweetness of stillness, of compassion for yourself, as you just take a final couple rounds of breath here. Again, if you'd like to stay longer, you can just pause the video and just chill out here. Otherwise, we bring a little bit of movement back to your body. You can wiggle your toes and your fingers. You rotate your wrists or your ankles. You bring your arms overhead, extend the legs long just to give yourself a nice full body stretch here. You could hug the knees in towards the chest. You could even roll a little bit from side to side, massage that lower spine. Always feels nice.
And then just rolling onto your side to transition up to an easy sitting pose. If you feel a bit of a head rush, just keep that head nodded down for a moment as you come up, but just allowing the blood flow to reach the brain. When it feels okay, you can rise that head up. And just take one last moment here. If it serves you, you can bring your palms together and your hands at heart center. Close the eyes and just turn up the sides of your mouth for a moment and just allow that sensation of compassion, of stillness, of health. Just allow it to wash over you. And I hope this practice nourish not only your physical self, but your mental self and your spirit. Namaste.